Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition for the Carvel community meeting. We were out last week, so we're back this week after a long week with some much needed R&R for the team. And we're excited to be back with our meetings that are held every Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. So if you're watching this from home, we would love to have you join us live. If you aren't able to join us live and have any questions you want to bring to the team, we can be reached out on Slack and Twitter. You can find that information here on the agenda. We also ask that when you interact with us, whether it be in the meeting or online, to please read and abide by our code of conduct, which is listed out here. Today's date is August 12th, 2021. When you attend the meetings, we ask that you add your name and any affiliation that you're associated with. This helps us keep track of who from outside of the team is joining these, and we can keep those lines of communication open. A couple of announcements. The last week of July, we posted a blog post detailing our kapp-controller release, introducing it as a package manager for Kubernetes. We would love for you to read over this blog post and provide any feedback you may have, or if you have any questions on how to get started with this, please feel free to reach out to us on Slack. We've also created a lovely tutorial on Katacoda that will help you get started and sort of walk you through the entire tool. Does anyone want to go over anything further regarding that particular post? Cool. Next up, if you are part of the Kubernetes community, you saw that KubeCon Cloud Native Con North America's schedule was released last week. Part of that schedule is Carvel is on the keynote stage. We'll be on the keynote stage Friday, October 15th from 9:40 to 9:45 a.m. Pacific time. There's a link here for that particular talk. It'll be given by Shatarupa Nandi. She's the engineering director at VMware Tanzu. And it's just a 5-minute keynote covering Carvel and all sorts of fun stuff with the tool suite. You can register to attend KubeCon either virtually or in person. So if you're not able to attend, given the times that we are dealing with now, there is an option to watch this virtually. All right. And as always, if you have anything that you wish to discuss in this meeting, please feel free to put that down in the discussion topic section. Looks like we have a few already posted, but if there's anything that you need help with, please feel free to add that there. Status updates regarding the project roadmap. Anything to add to what the team's working on regarding the top item here for kapp-controller?
Yeah, private registry authentication is very much top of our priority list right now. And we're actively working on it. Timeline of August is, I think, still realistic, probably maybe closer to the end of August. But yeah, we did recently submit a proposal that covers this in a bit more detail. So if there are any questions about what this is about or how we're planning to implement it, please check out the proposal.
And where can they find that proposal? If they go to the kapp-controller repo?
So it's actually in Carvel's PRs right now. So it's an open pull request.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so it's number 208.
just add that in my tabs. I'll add it to the notes in a moment. And then anything regarding the what the team may be working on from the backlog that's not necessarily tied to a roadmap item?
Yeah, go for it.
I could call out 2 YTT stories that have been done in this last 2 weeks. Just kind of filling the gap of certain error messages that had come out of our schema work that were missing information. So we've done our best to populate these error messages with the information that we had available the best that we could. So hopefully we can get a release out with these changes before working on the next step in YTT, or the next goal in YTT, which is the Open API schema track.
Great, thanks, Garrett. Anything else regarding any backlog items to share?
I think there have been general other, I don't know, either bug fixes or smaller enhancements that have been the focus. But then, as Garrett mentioned, probably the next big track that's about to get started is generating open API schemas in YTT. And this is a follow-up from the recently released YTT data values schema functionality that was released in July. But this is just taking it one step further to be able to generate more compatible form of the schemas so that other consumers can easily integrate with it.
Great. Now, if a person were to go through the in progress issues, would that give them a better picture of other items that maybe the team is working on outside of the roadmap?
Yeah, that we strive to keep this accurate. So those are all things that are in progress in one way or another.
Great. Cool.
And if you have questions, do please ask them on the GitHub issues or in Slack.
Cool. Thanks, Aaron. Okay, anything else the team wishes to share regarding that before we move on to the discussion topics? Joe, kick it on over to you. We have a couple of items here. Do you need me to stop sharing my screen?
Yes, for the Go doc, I would like to share my screen. So I think maybe a month ago, we kind of talked about Go doc, and we said, well, you know, let's try it in a couple places first. And so and there's maybe some questions of like, well, what's this really going to look like? So I want to show you, as part of the package repository work, we're working on secret gen controller. And this is a nice opportunity because it's relatively small and it's not being relied on in the kind of critical path yet by anything. So we've been able to go through and you can see I'm serving this locally. So the command to serve it is just godoc, you know, with a port, and so you know you can kind of see like, look, this is really what it looks like. Like this is, you know, documentation that I kind of convinced Dimitri to write yesterday, and so it's, you know, each of these exported functions has a brief, you know, description of itself now, or many of them do. And, you know, the like this warm up function, maybe you don't know what it does. And then you can say, oh, okay, it's hydrating a cache. So this, anyways, I thought I would give a quick like demonstration of what this looks like in practice. And I wanted to ask folks on the call if we're ready to start expanding this. I guess the other thing I should say is that the way that we were able to turn it on is you put a git SHA into your linter config, and you say from this SHA, after this SHA, all new diffs we're actually going to require Godoc. So the linter will require documentation for all new changes, and that way there's no big sweeping cut you have to do. You just start documenting. So I wanted to take a poll of like comfort level of like starting to kind of ratchet this forward in like some of our other repos. I think folks here today I think YTT is especially well represented. So I don't know, Garrett, John, any thoughts?
I had a quick question. What's the minimum? And it's not like I'm looking for the minimum thing to do, but just to understand, like what's the minimum bar to like meet what we mean by sufficiently Godoc'd?
That's a good question. So I think the linter is satisfied if you have, the name of the exported symbol followed by almost anything. And hopefully, like my goal is that it should be more informative than just reading the function name, right? And sometimes the function name is very explanatory and there really isn't that much to say, but like sometimes there's at least a synonym that you can put in. So I think I'll give one quick example. So this function match secrets for import, and especially if your head is in secret gen controller land, you might say, well, obviously I have an import, it's going to return an array of secrets. It's going to return an array of secrets that match. And maybe if your head is not in secret gen controller land, it's going to be helpful to see that it filters secrets that are exported, that are in our export cache, and that it filters them by this matcher criteria. So to me, like this is a good example of like a minimum value add. Is that helpful?
That is helpful. Love that action verb too, just saying. And some of the other things you scroll by look like there was time spent on trying to add a little signal. That looks great.
Any other input?
I would love to see this implemented going forward in YTT. I think that this is a great value add, especially for new engineers as we roll people under our team. I think this would be great.
Cool. So I'm happy to pair briefly or point you all to the relevant CI config. And then I think that's kind of a segue into a broader discussion. Like I know I've been working in the last couple of weeks. Sorry, Nancy, this is the next item on the agenda. Okay, to pull in like some of the like image packages using Go Releaser and image package, and I think YTT are using like Stretcher Testify. And I was kind of wanted just to take a temperature of the group of like how much effort should we be putting into all using the same tools or same libraries like this. That's my question.
All right, yeah, I have an opinion. So not nominally, if we can get to agreement about like what a baseline set of tools, because we are under an umbrella as a set of projects, that's obviously valuable. It means that people can contribute to each of the tools without having to learn a whole different set of things. So that's sort of that's a kind of a typical argument for standardize. But personally, I'm always open to, hey, maybe there's a particular need on a project and wouldn't be pedantic about, well, yeah, we use this other framework or additional framework or library, whatever, because for cause, personally. But it'd be great if we can just kind of like, there's a lot of the kind of programming that we're doing that fits within that are sufficiently similar. It'd be surprising that we'd have to have completely different sets of tools. So feels like we could probably lean into maybe there's just a matter of just putting attention to it, and then um, rather than having be a little bit more intentional, slightly less organic, and we probably get there pretty quickly, is my guess.
And I guess I would maybe one more follow-up, because I think I broadly agree with how you put it, John. And one more follow-up is, like, I've just listed off a handful of things, right? This around go doc, go releaser, the way we're doing assertions in our unit tests. Is there anything on anyone else's radar of like, oh, we've been using this in YTT or kapp-controller, and actually it's working out great and we should expand it?
Things off the top of my head, linting, we've been, whatever tooling we're doing for that. And I think we're already like standardized on Cobra for flag management. That might just be done.
One thing that isn't necessarily, I guess, a library, but is GitHub Actions, and trying to keep those consistent might be useful. And like secret gen controller comes to mind, since we haven't spent as much time there. So like that might be one that we want to bring up to speed.
So that, yeah, I know, like Dimitri and I just actually went through some of that yesterday. We basically copied things out of kapp-controller. But I don't know, honestly, whether kapp-controller was up to speed with some of the older tools. So-
Is there a good way for us to move forward on like creating like what is like our baseline expectations, I guess?
And, you know, I think that relates to, we kind of had a story of like, what does it mean for something to be less experimental? So I think maybe I can take point on that and just roll in like, here's our standard kind of, if you were to start, you know, one more Carvel tool, here's hopefully what it would be leaning on. Here's our stack, right?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay, so I can own the next step there and bring a proposal back around. And then, okay, so if, unless there's any other thoughts, we can move on. Thanks all.
Cool. Thanks, Joe. Nick, you're up. You got a question about kapp-controller, Tanzu package plugin, values, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I think that this might be a change that came, I guess, in a more recent version of kapp-controller. But so when I have a package and I install it into, you know, the cluster using the you know, the Tanzu package plugin, everything works just fine. And obviously inside of that package, you know, we have a values.yaml file, which is where we can specify some, you know, custom configuration. Well, what comes bundled with the package, you know, is basically like just default config, right? And if you want to modify any of those values, you know, you basically can make a copy of that values.yaml file. And then when you install the package using, of course, this is using the Tanzu package plugin, you know, you can then specify a -- you know, values file equals, and then give it the name of your now local, you know, custom values file for that package. And when it goes to, you know, install the package, if that values file has any lines in it that contain, you know, the directives like, or any line starting with, you know, the hash @ or hash bang, you know, for a comment, the installation of the package will fail. You know, basically saying, oh my God, there are these lines, I can't deal with that. So I guess is like, what I don't understand is that if I just install the package and that values file has those annotations in it, it works. But if I make an exact copy of that file, I don't even have to make any changes. Just say, hey, I want you to use this file that's sitting out here, and it gets passed in, then it's like, oh my God, I can't handle these annotations. Like, I'm kind of curious, like, what's going on there? I see John shaking his head.
So the main reason it's like that is as part of packaging, there could be different templating backends, and Helm, we didn't want the secret containing the values to have to know what sort of backend the package is using for templating. So in order to do that, we wanted to expose a generic interface of just plain YAML, and then that gets passed through to the tool. And then I don't know, John, if you want to talk about the YTT design decisions around disallowing annotations in that file of it.
Yeah. So the idea is, yeah, first of all, I just want to say I can relate to like how that ought to just work, and it's frustrating that it doesn't. That data-values.file flag, when we added that, we intended that to be like a new kind of input, and it's another take on data values, and it was inspired by our need to integrate with that integrators like kapp-controller would want to use. And part of the motivation for saying this must be a plain YAML file rather than a YTT template, part of it is exactly what Eli said, was that we want to make sure that as a package author, you don't inadvertently run into this problem where you've exposed your community of users who are using your package to like have a YTT template as your data values, or it's technically a YTT overlay as your data values, and then for whatever reason you want to switch what tool you're using on the back end to render, and that you want to switch to say Helm in your next version, that would be a breaking change for everybody using your package. So in part, it's an attempt to do that. The other part too is that it simplifies the whole providing data values experience, minus this bit that you're describing. So unfortunately, you're hitting like the other end of a trade-off. And the simplification is this, that for a lot of users coming to YTT in general, it's a bit odd and confusing for the first thing out the gate when I'm providing configuration values is to supply this file that sort of looks like it's just a bunch of key value pairs, but turns out it does more than that. Like I can't add two of them together, like they don't combine well at first, and then I get these overlay errors. I don't even know what do you mean overlay as a new user? And so what we wanted to do was provide a much more straightforward interface for providing data values. And so so the kind of input that we're getting on that flag is a plain YAML document. So I know that that's not very satisfying. It's like, okay, so it's not broken. This is by design. I know it's awkward. I think our hope is, and I think I might be kicking this back to you, Eli. I believe that our intent is to be able to give you the ability to provide a data values overlay feature so that you can like provide a data values overlay file in the way that you're doing, and that would start to feel more natural, because it would actually interpret that as a dynamic file, a file that has expressions inside of it, as opposed to just a plain YAML file. How did I do, Eli? I feel I'm just slightly over my skis.
Yeah, no, that's true. We added an annotation to the package install to sort of swap the type of input file from this plain data values file to the overlay kind. So I can link you to some docs around
Oh,
that.
sweet. Yeah, because I heard the past tense, so it sounds like that's available today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. we're
Nice.
just
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's interesting. So I had a question, but I wanted to pause. Said a lot, Nick. So
Yeah, no, I guess it's good to hear that. I guess I can understand why it was happening. I guess my biggest thing was maybe I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know that change had popped in. And so it kind of threw me for a loop when, I got these errors. And I guess the more painful bit, I guess, is that now for all of the packages that we've currently authored, it's like I got to go back and change all the data files, and I got to strip out all the annotations. Because if in the future, if somebody was doing like I did and just said, hey, I just want to see this work, and I'm just going to take the existing data file and I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to pass it in. I would expect that to work. So, if we want to provide a good, I guess, default format for a file, it's like it should be something that actually works.
right. Yeah, I wonder if
think-
the output from data values inspect might be helpful here. So there's a flag on YTT where you can tell it, hey, here's all my input, all my files, including data value stuff. Could you please not run the whole process, but stop right after you've calculated all the data values and give me those? And that spits out plain YAML. I wonder if that might be a tactic that we want to bring some attention to for someone who's trying to do exactly what you're doing, where it's like, hey, I just want a starter set, then I want to modify. I'll prune it down to the stuff that I just need to customize.
Yeah, I would be hesitant about removing the annotations from the actual values file in the package, because if you remove the data values annotation from there, when YTT runs, it won't see that file as data values. It'll see it as like a YAML template and would output it. So like the values file in the package has to have the annotation, which means users won't be able to copy it out verbatim. So it's sort of this.
Okay, so yeah, that's the crux of my problem.
Okay, so the other thing too here, Nick, is just a little bit of narration, taking one step back, like as we're building up these tools and we're adding in the required features. So one thing that we've just recently released is the ability in YTT to define a schema, which effectively that's what your data values inside your package is. It's essentially setting the schema for inputs. It's like an API into that config. Now we have a first class feature, schemas, wherein you describe that. And I think as we're able to like properly position all these various features on YTT itself, like the story could become a little bit clearer. As the author, you write your schema file. As a end user providing your configuration, you should be able to query to see what data values have been declared in the schema so that I can write my custom configuration and then provide that as a plain YAML data values file. Or as like Eli described, there's this more advanced way of like, no, I want to use an overlay. I don't want to just provide values. I want to do something that's fancier, that's going to do some kind of edit to the default values that the schema provides and be able to show that. So I feel like your pain's real because I mean, I know it is, like you're experiencing, but what I'm trying to say is there's this speed bumps in this experience because we haven't yet been able to like clearly show here's how you would do this. Here's this use case. You want to do X, and you're having to sort of feel your way through it yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm sensing a gap here in how we have described how to use these tools in concert. That if we had that guide, you'd be following that guide, and this would be less confusing / frustrating.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to be working with packages, over the next week, getting some stuff ready for my project. So I'll keep thinking about this, and I might hit you up offline.
Yeah, if the second you run into anything, like if please swing by the Slack channel. We're super happy to pair like over Zoom or whatever, just kind of get things started. You don't have to figure this out on your own. We're totally here to help.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and this exact issue actually came up in Slack today or yesterday. So exactly.
Uh,
Well, I'll have to go check
Hello,
that out.
Nick. You see, you're not crazy.
All right, I got to go see who's in my boat.
Okay, anything further on that topic? Okay, looks like there aren't any more discussion topics listed out. Is there anything else that anyone wishes to bring up before we depart? Nope. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today at the Carvel community meeting. Again, if you're watching this from home, we encourage you to come and join us live. We meet every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And it's just an opportunity for you to listen in on what the team is working on, provide any discussion topics you wish to bring up with the team, or if you need help with something like Nick did today, you can bring that up in this meeting and have live feedback. If there's anything that you wish to bring up and you're not able to attend the meeting, you can just do so in Slack or on Twitter, and we're also available there as well. With that, we look forward to engaging with you, and have an enjoyable rest of your day. Thank you.